Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Chris. Today's video is all about fragrances that work well in the high heat. Currently we are in mid-July and we are heading into some hot weather, and there are fragrances that are strictly off limits to me, and there are fragrances that I really do pull for in the hot weather. They are not suffocating, they are fresh and clean and light. I have several fragrances that tend to be my go-to when the weather is steamy, and I'm just gonna dive right in because I have several. I am gonna start my list with I like to wear tea fragrances or tea-centered fragrances when it's hot. They typically tend to be just super light and refreshing, and the one I'm gonna start with is called Chi by Orman Jayne. This is so nice. This is one that was not on my radar, and the brand was nice enough to send me a travel size. And I took that travel size on with me on a little trip, and I just could not stop wearing it. It's super light, it's super refreshing. It is a tea-based fragrance. Again, I would say, you know, green or white tea, but it has a lovely, I get a little apricot note, and I don't think that apricot is in here per se, but I do think that there are several light florals, including osmanthus, and osmanthus to me has a little bit of an apricot-y nuance. So it's light, it's bright, it's fresh, it's refreshing, and it is just so delicious. Perfect grab and go, and I love having the travel size because I can just stick it in my bag and refresh during the day, because this does not last forever. Light fragrances tend not to last forever, but I can get at least, you know, 4 or 5 hours out of it. The next one I'm going to show is one I'm super excited about. I tell you what, one of my lovely subscribers slash friends out there, Lori, sent me a little decant, and I fell in love. I think it was last summer, and I'm telling you, I tried to track down a bottle of this, and it was so hard. It was sold out in many, many places. So I finally got my bottle of the Sal Y Limon by Carrousel Barcelona. I just adore this fragrance. This is a delicious, light, I would call it a citrusy, musky floral with emphasis on the citruses, but it's not that what people fear, that screechy or a screechy, overly citrusy fragrance. There's something about it that is somewhat fizzy and delicious. I think it has lemon and lime as the main notes, and the lemon or the citruses almost go in a candied direction, so they're not as sour and sharp and overly green. Certainly there's no soapiness going on here. I don't know the florals. I would guess like a subtle neroli, maybe a little bit of a freesia, a lovely, lovely light breezy musk, and maybe some other, you know, maybe some other fruits in the background. This reminds me, the closest thing to this is Dior Homme de Cologne, which is, oh, I love that. It is a beautiful fragrance. This would be in the same ballpark, maybe a touch sweeter, and it has a little bit more depth and a little bit more effervescence, whereas Dior Homme Cologne is a little bit more straightforward. Love this one too, and this one has decent lasting power for being a citrus dominated fragrance. Okay, the next one is a perfume that I picked up in Italy when I was there. I was there 2 summers ago, and the week I was in Italy, and this particularly Rome, it was in the high 90s, and I just did not feel like wearing perfume. We went into the Carthusia boutique, and this was the only one that I wanted to wear. It is called Mediterraneo. This one happens to be George Clooney's signature scent. Apparently it is very, very unisex, and this just has a lightness to it. To me, I don't know the notes by heart or by memory, but to me this smells like you had just finished a glass of iced tea, and black iced tea. You finished it, there was just a teensy bit left in the glass, and then you filled that glass with lemonade. So this is mostly a lemonade tea perfume, like a very diluted iced tea with a lot of lemon and a splash of mint. I want to say there's probably a little bit of eucalyptus in here. It is so refreshing. I ended up wearing this one out of the store into that hot summer day, and it was just so refreshing. I ended up getting the entire set there, like the shower gel and the body lotion, because this one wears lightly, and I'm just telling you, there's something really refreshing and nice about it. I do have to coat myself, not only because it has poor longevity, but because it's so delicious. I just want to smell myself all day. The next one is another, it's a minty based fragrance, and I find mint very, very refreshing in the hot weather. In fact, it's really the only time I want to wear mint-based fragrances, and this is called You or Someone Like You. This is basically a take on a mint julep with just a hint of soapiness, and I want to say the slightest bit of soapiness, very, very toned down, some lovely musk, and some underlying florals. It is very difficult to find a mint based or a mint dominant fragrance that doesn't smell like mouthwash or toothpaste, and I've basically found two that I really, really enjoy, and this one is quite delicious. It also wears a little bit lightly, has a little bit of a greenness, like a green fresh grassiness, but one that's super refreshing in the hot weather, and I can just coat myself and I never feel overwhelmed. Okay, so the next one is a beautiful designer perfume, and I smelled this a couple years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, fell in love, but didn't feel like I needed it because I had something that I thought was similar, but I recently tried it again, tried my little sample, and I thought, gosh, I need this because it's going to be so good in the summer, and I finally picked up a bottle of Chanel No. 5 L'Eau. Now, Chanel No. 5, the original, or the Eau de Parfum, is a little bit too much for me. I appreciate it for the masterpiece that it is, but it's really not me. So I found that the Eau Première version several years ago, this is my second bottle, was more me. This to me is like the inside voice, whereas Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum is the outside voice. You know, that one has more aldehydes. This one is softer, it's a little bit more buttery, and it has a little bit more powderiness. So Chanel No. 5 L'Eau is really more of a flanker of Eau Première as opposed to a flanker of the original Chanel No. 5. It really is much more similar. Just as Eau Première to me is a softer version of Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum, this is a softer, lighter version of Chanel Eau de Parfum Eau Première. This is an Eau de Parfum, this is an Eau de Toilette. So this wears more lightly. It's just lighter, softer. It's a little bit more translucent. Chanel L'Eau means water, so it's a little bit more watery. So it's much more appropriate in the heat. This is a year-round fragrance, but I really love to wear it in the colder months. It's just so enveloping and soft and lovely. And this is I found that it is my go-to during the summer. I've already worn it like 3 or 4 times, and I just love it. It's very chic and elegant, but light, versatile, and office appropriate. Just love it. Let's go with another designer, shall we? One of my favorite freshies, we'll call it clean and fresh, for the summer, or really all time. And this is a fragrance that I probably love to smell on my husband the most. This is another one we found in Italy. This is Vetiver d'Hiver by Giorgio Armani. And the interesting thing is that we went into the Giorgio Armani boutique there in Firenze or Florence, and you know, there were so many that I wanted to sniff, and several of them were just a little bit of a disappointment. They weren't as wow, like didn't have the wow factor. But the one that I kept going to was this one, and it was the one we walked out of the store with. And it turns out that the sales assistant, very chic, elegant man that had been there at the shop for several years, it was his signature scent and one he loved. And it is just so beautiful. It's so nice that my husband and I both have a bottle of it because we kept stealing it from each other. So now we have one of each in our own collection. I absolutely love it. Even though Vetiver is in the name, this is not a Vetiver heavy fragrance. I mean, it's light and in the background, but this is really kind of a spicy, beautiful citrus. Like, oh my gosh, citrus is, in my opinion, done to perfection. I'm sure all sorts of citruses in here. It's got a little bit of cardamom, a little bit of pepperiness, a little bit of musk. Now the downside is that I think some people go anosmic to it. I know Pat does. He tells me like at hour 3 he can't smell it, but I can smell it on him. So fortunately, I can smell this a good solid 5-6 hours, whereas he can only smell it for 2 to 3 hours. You should take that into consideration, and obviously try before you buy. But oh my gosh, one of the best freshy unisex fragrances of all time. And then another one that is a delicious, very nice perfume to wear in the hot weather. I do think this is unisex. Some people might think it leans a little bit feminine. I think personally it's unisex. Is 724 by MFK. This is kind of a squeaky clean, aldehydic, floral, musky fragrance. You know, it has a little bit of that, you know, laundry detergent or fresh laundry vibe, but it's more aldehydic. So it's a little bit more soapy, a little bit bright, it has a little bit of a pop to it. It does start off, you know, pretty clean and squeaky clean, fresh, soapy, but it dries down more softly. It has a nice powdery touch and some lovely soft musk. Now, I wore this on one of the hottest days of the summer. We had a good week last week. It was only in the low 80s for highs. I wore this, it was like, I think it was 95, 96 degrees. I thought it was going to be a big mistake. It actually turned out to be a very, very good choice. It wasn't suffocating. It was still light but present, and I could get at least half of the day. Okay, I've got a couple more tea-based fragrances. Again, I find them super, super refreshing. Now, the Guerlain line of Aqua Allegoria, those fragrances, I think so many in that line are terrific for the summer and the high heat. And the one I have on my hand is Herba Fresca, another tea-based fragrance. This is a mint tea-based fragrance, but this to me, the mint in here smells more like spearmint than like a peppermint. The tea in here is a lot more prominent than it is in You or Someone Like You. This one is not quite as sweet, and the mint is a little bit more prominent. So the mint in here is a little bit sweeter, whereas this one pulls a little bit more earthy, a little bit more green, less sweet, and a little bit more herbal. This has a note of clover in it, and I find that clover gives fragrances almost a little bit of an earthiness and a slight honeyed nuance. So a beautiful, fresh, herbal, minty, not overly sweet, slightly earthy, refreshing, light fragrance that is terrific in the hot weather. Again, like most fragrances in this line, they do wear lightly. They do not last all day. I can get them to last about half the day. Let's go with another tea. One that I talk about all the time, Woong Cha X. Now, if you have the original Woong Cha, you do not need this one. They are not the same fragrances, but they are very, very similar. I find that this one is a little bit more floral and it's not as green. So maybe the neroli is turned down, maybe the petit grain is turned down. This is slightly more floral. It has a note of magnolia. Again, it is a tea-centered fragrance, a beautiful citrusy green tea fragrance with some lovely soft floral undertones, like a magnolia undertone, and not quite as green as the original. And this is one of the very few citrusy based tea fragrances that does have terrific lasting power and longevity. And if I spray on my clothes and my skin, I can get this pretty much to last all day. All right, the next one is one of my favorite House of Sillage fragrances to wear in the summertime. In fact, it's gonna be my fragrance of the day. So this fragrance is Whispers of Time. It's so refreshing. You do have to love neroli. This smells a lot like Neroli Portofino by Tom Ford. In the very beginning, they're almost indistinguishable, but the dry down is much different. This one is actually much easier on the pocketbook, particularly because this house is really good about having sales fairly frequently. And the dry down on this one is really, really fun. So this has neroli, this has ginger, it has cedar. I think it has a little bit of vanilla because even though it's got that really strong neroli in the beginning, like neroli, bergamot, maybe a little bit of orange blossom. Actually, it does have orange blossom. So neroli, bergamot, ginger, and orange blossom, it kind of hits you a little bit strongly. I love it. It's very, very refreshing. It just smells so good. And again, it smells almost exactly like Neroli Portofino, but as they dry down, Neroli Portofino doesn't have the best lasting power. It goes a little bit more sour on me. This one starts to smell like Fruit Loops. There's something about it that smells like Fruit Loops. Maybe it's the vanilla that's not mentioned. Maybe it's the cedar, a little bit of the ginger, some of that bergamot, maybe giving a little bit of that fruity, citrusy touch. I just love it. It wears lightly. Again, half day, I don't mind. This is so, so wonderful. And you can wear this in 100-degree weather and you're not going to suffocate. I think I wasn't going to mention it in this video. As soon as I'm done filming this video, I'm going to do best designers for summer. And I was going to save this for the next video. I'm going to mention it briefly because it is so good for the hot weather. It is a Burberry Her. This is the Burberry For Her EDT. It's the only Burberry For Her or Her that I have in my collection. I just adore this. And let me tell you, this is an easy reach when the weather is hot. I like to wear this in the spring, but it is even better in the summer. And it smells just like the juice here. There's strawberry, there's black currant, there's pear. You have a little bit of peony. It just smells delicious. It's so light and wonderful and refreshing. And it has really, really good lasting power, particularly for an eau de toilette. So the next two fragrances are for those who really are looking for cleanly formulated fragrances. Listen, these are fantastic for anybody, but if you're looking for a fragrance that smells good and is cleanly formulated, I've got two for you. I've spoken about both of these before, and the great thing is the lovely people over at Dyad Candle have given me a discount code for y'all, 15%. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Dusk Dawn. And I have been loving this. This fragrance right here has been a fragrance that I have been grabbing when I want to go somewhere. I want to smell good. I don't want to smell heavy, and I don't want to offend those around me, but I want to smell myself. And I've been wearing this a ton. It is such a beautiful, I would call it a soft, refreshing, watery floral musk. Now, they include these neat little cards with your order, and it tells you exactly what's in the fragrance. It tells you some of the notes. Now, this isn't a complete listing of the notes because I think they have a more complete list on their website, but basically this is the abbreviated version. Yuzu top notes enhanced with water lily, peony, amber, and musk. And that's really all you need to know, because I think that kind of really encapsulates what this fragrance is. It is a soft, fresh, clean, watery floral musk. I absolutely adore this. Listen, it does wear lightly. I just got the fragrance oil rollerball. That is great on its own or layered, and I do kind of go to town with this, and it is just so good. I recently wore this out to a very, very nice dinner. Pat and I went to a really special, nice dinner in downtown, and this is the fragrance I wore because I knew that the restaurant was very small. So I did not want to have a big scent cloud. I did not want to bother others around me, but I wanted to smell myself. This is the one I wore, and at the end of the evening, the chef kind of walked around at each table and he gave me a hug and he said, "Oh my gosh, you smell so good." So he didn't necessarily smell me when I was, 2 arm lengths away, but when he came in close, he smelled me and he was like, "Wow, you smell really good." And I was wearing Dusk Dawn. Now listen, vanilla or vanilla-based fragrances are not fragrances that I am dying to wear when it's really, really hot. There are only 2 fragrances that I have been wearing, or I should say the 2 fragrances that I have been wearing the most when it gets really, really hot are Guerlain's Forte Basca Vanilla. I have been loving that. I've been talking about it ad nauseum, so I did not include it in this video. The other one that I have found that works spectacular in the heat is this one called Highs and Lows, another one from Dyad Candle. Now, the notes that they talk about, they say Frisian notes enhanced with jasmine, orange blossom, ambrette, musk, and vanilla. And I'm just gonna say that this is a non-gourmand vanilla. If you're one of those people that do not like to smell like food, but you like the idea of a fragrance that has a nice, well-done vanilla in it, cleanly formulated, this is it. To me, this is a very clean vanilla musk fragrance, again with some underlying supporting notes, but the bottom line is it is a beautiful musky vanilla. It does not ever tread into the gourmand zone, even though on their website I think they say their point of view is, eating a dessert at the end of the day. This to me does not smell gourmand, but it is a beautiful, clean, non-sticky sweet vanilla with musk that I love. This one lasts a lot longer than Dusk Dawn. I could smell this on my clothes when I went to go do laundry. I could smell this on my clothes like 2 or 3 days later. It has much better lasting power, and it is just a beautiful, soft, musky vanilla in the heat. I have others, but I think I'm gonna call it quits because that was plenty. So that was the fragrances I love to wear in the summer, particularly when it's really, really hot outside. I have found that every single one of the fragrances that I've talked about works well in 90-degree heat and up. And that's hot. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all of you who are subscribed to my channel. Thanks for everybody who always gives me a thumbs up and leaves me a nice comment below. And if I haven't mentioned your favorite fragrance to wear when it's really, really hot, let us all know in the comments below. And with that, I will see you on the next one.